New polling that shows the flawed Obamacare website can't get fixed fast enough for the president. It really can't. According to new CBS News poll, 61% now have a negative view of Obamacare, a new low for the poll. Just 31% approve of the president's health care law. President Obama doesn't fare much better, with just 32% of Americans approving of the way he's handling health care. That's his lowest rating on the issue since CBS started asking the question 4 years ago. The poll also finds 31% believe the problems with the website are an isolated issue. However, 63% think they signs of more widespread problems to come. And overall, just 15% of voters think Obamacare will help them. 39% say it will do more harm than good. And Mark Halperin, I know what will happen if I'm too forceful with this argument, but this is right in the middle of all the glitches. I mean, farther out these polls could change, I guess.
Well, they could, but I will tell you, without being hyperbolic and just looking at it as a snapshot of where we are now, I've been traveling the country for a week. The people who seem most upset and most worried are liberals and big supporters of the law, who are concerned that if the poll numbers start to turn quickly, it may be very difficult for the president to ever accentuate the positive aspects of the law, because the opponents of it can cherry pick individual constituent examples, big macro problems with it.
Yeah.
So it is, I'd say, a crisis that needs to be addressed on substance and on politics. And you can see in the White House, they're trying to balance being optimistic with recognizing that there are problems and real concerns. And every poll showing the same thing.
Yeah.
We've seen a bunch of national polls, and it's obviously not just with the health care, but it's now infecting how people see the president.
So, Halperin, to your point, the White House is pointing to a new report that shows annual increases in health care costs may be slowing. The Council of Economic Advisors says cost inflation is at its lowest point in 50 years, with total national health expenditures up only 1.3% from 2010. The report also says that reduced costs for employers could add as many as 400,000 jobs per year by the end of the decade. But Republicans are critical of the report, saying that the slowdown is due to a sluggish economy, not Obamacare. As for the website, healthcare.gov, there is new evidence of red flags leading up to the launch. A September 25th email acquired by Fox News shows the website's project manager expressing concern that healthcare.gov would not be ready on October 1st. He writes, "I am picturing in my mind all the major print and online publications taking screenshots of what is below and just ramping up the hyperbole about healthcare.gov not functional." The email included this image showing the website down. And that's exactly what happened yesterday. While HHS Secretary Kathleen Sebelius met with some of the so-called navigators in South Florida, the website went down. I mean...
Yeah, it's getting... I want to pick up where Mark was, and I don't want to get too hyperbolic, but this is a disaster. We have asked American people to behave differently, to change the way. When was the last time we asked the entire country to do something differently? Now, doing that, it better be right, and we clearly know it has not been. And my concern is the war of anecdotes going forward, that the passion of the negative anecdotes of I can't get my old insurance, or I have cancer, are so much more intense than what I'll call the positive anecdotes. Oh, this is the, So that's my big concern. The only shot the president has is, and people are not going to be happy with it, is what I'm going to call a 5-year narrative and say, look, there are two things that are going to be happening. We're going to lower the growth of healthcare costs, which is we're starting to see, and more people are going to have insurance, those 30 and 40 million.
Right.
But this is a 5-10-year proposition. Now, it's not going to make people happy today. That, at this point, is his only math, if you will.
Well, go ahead, Harold.
You could very well be right. The fundamental problem for him now, to expand on Mark's point, is what happens with Democrats in the Senate and the House who are up for re-election, and how they have to respond and behave around this. I think you could be right. We might see it in 3 or 4 years, but that's not fast enough for either Democrats in the House and the Senate, or even the next presidential race. The website problems, I thought, were a week or two ago, were more isolated than they are. I happen to think it could be a more systemic challenge, and there may need to be a greater honesty, not an honesty, I'm not saying people people are being dishonest, but a greater acceptance that they've got to step back, maybe shut the whole thing down, which many have suggested for and fix this. Well, I get limping along like this.
Yeah.
We can the risk on both sides of it, but limping along doesn't serve anyone's interest.
Hemorrhaging.
And then I was with a big investor yesterday. Said, you know, the next big challenge he believes for this is that he believes there are not enough doctors in the system. Say you get to 30 million people signed up, we don't have enough physicians to accommodate the flood of people that we want to have health insurance. So I hope they're thinking through all of these things, because these challenges right now are big, they're hurtful, but going forward we may have more systemic challenges as well.
These are their political problems. Their biggest problem is that the American people were skeptical from go.
Right.
This was not a law that passed with a majority of Americans behind it. It was a law that passed with the most rabid liberal supporters of President Obama behind them.
Yeah.
Not